and you start down life, everyone tells you got to focus. You just got to do one thing. You just do one thing and do it well. And that's great if that's what you want to do. But that, for people like me, who has an attention deficiency for a start, that wouldn't work for me. They got so much anticipation, enthusiasm, hope, ambitions. What a payback. I mean, those are wonderful paybacks. They might not be monetary, but they're wonderful paybacks to me as an individual, and in a way I then conduct myself in my business. So talk to me about your entrepreneurial journey and the things that you think that you might have done differently just in that short period of time.
Okay. I'm Claude Williams, and this is the Behind the Dreams podcast. Today we have Theo Paphitis, former dragon from Dragon's Den, serial entrepreneur and investor. Theo has built an impressive business empire across multiple industries worth hundreds of millions and has remained committed to supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses. As someone who is neurodiverse himself, Theo is a passionate advocate for dyslexia awareness, and he serves as the empowerment patron for the British Dyslexia Association. Join us today as we learn from his sharp wit and no-nonsense approach to life and to business. So first and foremost, thank you so much, Theo, for taking time to be with us today.
Pleasure, Claude.
Excellent. You have been in business for more than 40 years. You are running a number of organizations, including Raymond and Robert Diaz, and you've made countless investments, more than I was able to find, whether that's in property, through Dragon's Den, and I'm sure other avenues as well. So my first question to you was, how do you manage to stay so enthusiastic and motivated to still be in entrepreneurship?
Well, I'd like to tell you it's dead easy, because it is. Because I'm fortunate I do such a variety of things that it's hard to get bored. And, you know, when you spend time being involved with organisations like the British Dyslexia Association and lots of other dyslexia organisations, which brings you in touch with schools and young people. Then there's my small business work with Small Business Sunday, which is now a dozen years old, which gives me really great access to 4,000 small businesses. And we have a conference every year in Birmingham. We get 1,000 small business. All those things energize you, because whether it's business or it's young people, you know, they're all enthusiastic. And whereas, in fairness, I'm coming to the end of my journey. They're all at the beginning of their journey. And that's what's so marvelous, and that's what gives you the energy, because I'm sure I had that sort of energy at the beginning of my journey. So I'm mixing with people at the beginning of their journey, whether age or whether in business, it can't help but rub off on you.
That's a fantastic answer, and what I'm hearing from that is by you making those investments into other people is keeping you connected to, I guess, that heart of entrepreneurship at people at different stages of their journey.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not going to say there's exception to every rule, but I don't like to go by just convention. And you know, as a kid, and when you start down life, everyone tells you you got to focus. You just got to do one thing. You just do one thing and do it well, and that's great if that's what you want to do. But that, for people like me, who has an attention deficiency for a start, that wouldn't work for me. That wouldn't keep my interest. That wouldn't keep me buoyed and energized. So for me, it works. And I was having a conversation with a small business the other day. He's got two small businesses, both doing relatively well. And he brought up the same thing. Should I just be doing one thing and doing it well? He said, because I've got this other little idea as well. I said, listen, it's about you. It's not about what other people tell you should be. It's about who you are. And if that's what works for you, and that's what enthuses you, and that fills your life, whether you make, by concentrating on one thing, X, but by diversifying, you've made X less 10% or 15%, but you've got that much more energy out of it and more excitement and more satisfaction, what would you rather do?
Yeah, no, that's a struggle that I relate to, because myself, I've started a number of businesses, and I do struggle to say, if I did just do this one, I'd probably be way further along in the pathway. But
It's what you want.
exactly that.
It's
Because
what you want.
that having that motivation, like you say, something that actually gives you back that energy,
Yeah.
and be able to, even if it means it's not the most efficient,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, we only have one life.
Well, and it's a very short one. And I can tell you that because I asked this particular guy how old he was. And he said he was 34. And I said, well, believe you me, you'll be 65 tomorrow. That's how quickly it gets you there. So do not waste that time. You know, it was a short period on this planet for. Sometimes I get told off for using this analogy, but it's like we're like a pinprick on a rhinoceros's bottom. You know, it's irrelevant. We're just tiny. We're not even that, our lifespan. So it's about finding what you want out of your life.
Yeah. So you and I have something in common, and that's that we're both dyslexic. And it's very often when people talk about dyslexia, talk about it in the past tense. So what life was like in school or things of that nature. But for a lot of us, we almost ignore the difficulties we might be having today. I personally kind of feel like sometimes life is being played on hard mode for me because of my dyslexia, even though I've kind of found ways around lots of the difficulties. Do you still find it something that makes your life more difficult today?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to do a crossword. I would love to be able to spell better than my 8-year-old grandkids. Right? But you know what? I've been very, very lucky because the technology is a wonderful thing. And you're incredibly lucky because there was no technology when I was struggling and started off in business. I was at school. There was no technology. Calculators had only just been invented. Never mind anything else. The pocket calculator was a big, big thing. And PCs came much after that. So there wasn't the technology, but luckily numbers wasn't my issue. So there wasn't the technology, but as technology comes, that's a great, great aid for people with dyslexia. It's fabulous. And when I could afford to employ somebody to help me, because when I started off, it was just me. And then I could afford to employ a person to help me in the office and do typing and spelling and do letters. It was marvelous. So it doesn't bother me nowhere near as much. And I don't have to hide it. I think it's the biggest thing because I used to have to hide it, even from the people I employed.
Wow.
Because I felt it was an issue and it was a stain on me. Now I can talk about it openly.
What changed as to why you can talk about it versus
what changed is because, first of all, dyslexia and the derivatives of dyslexia have been recognized, and it is no longer seen as you're thick. Because I used to think, well, people think I'm thick. You can be open about it, and it's accepted, and people know it's just something that you've got to live with. And it's not really an issue. It doesn't stop you getting on in life if you deal with it. And you find workarounds, as I did, around most things. And I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
And most kids do.
Yeah, it is. It's sad, actually, in the sense that it should now be public knowledge. It should be understood that somebody's ability to spell or do certain tasks doesn't determine their potential or their intelligence. No. But I still do find there are still pockets, even here in the UK, where that's still not the case. People don't get it.
I don't know. I'm going to disagree with you, Claude, on that one because I'm quite open about it. I've just been to school and chatted with a whole bunch of little kids, ranging from 7 to 10, and all with dyslexia and some quite severely. And we talked openly about it. And the fact that I could talk openly about it for them. And then I had a list of questions to ask them. And I said, look, I'm going to struggle with reading these questions. I wonder if someone volunteer come up and read a question for me. And then one came up and read the question off my piece of paper brilliantly. Yeah. And then I said, right, I've got now some more questions. Someone else come and read a question for me. And they all came and read a question each beautifully. And I was talking to them. This is just one thing, and they know I've done relatively well in life. So their life should not be curtailed or limited by the fact they've got dyslexia. And in fact, the school we went to visit, which was in Norbury, was brilliant. It recognised it, was dealing with it, had all the tuition aids that were required. And I'm positive that those kids will come out of that school pretty, well, use the word relaxed, but content with the issues they have, and will be able to deal with them in day-to-day life. And the fact that in dealing with them, we have to work harder, which is a great asset to have when you go out to the world of work.
Yeah. So you have been putting a lot of time in. I know you said you've visited some schools today. You had some more commitments last night. You've become the patron of the British Dyslexia Association. What is that's driving you to really invest into people with dyslexia right now?
Because I never want kids, because they don't need to have to deal. It's hard enough to deal with your dyslexia, but then deal with the prejudices that come along with it. And I was thick at school, according to my teachers. So I was in the lowest form, chucked in the lowest form of everything. And it was much later, towards the end of my school career, that a teacher recognised that actually this guy's a good mathematician. What is he doing in the lowest form? And for the last 2 years, I was doing my work in a fraction of the time all the other kids were doing it, and then messing around the rest of the time. So again, I was disruptive. But I was disruptive for the wrong reason. I wasn't disruptive because I couldn't do the work. I was finishing the work in minutes. And then I was picking my nose.
Right.
So I had to find things to do.
Yeah.
It was not always well judged, I've got to be honest. I was a kid.
Yeah.
You've got to give me a break. But it meant that I was classified as thick. And when you look at my school report for my final year at school, the comments from the head of year is horrendous. In today's world, how somebody could write that on a report, which I still have, and I wore it like a badge of honor.
So that's an interesting response, because I think there's a lot of research now that says when you speak to children in a certain way, it has an impact that can often impact their self-esteem. But in your case, you don't seem like it held you back. How are you able to get past those perceptions?
Necessity. It's always a good one.
Yeah.
Necessity, having to go out to the world of work and make money because we were very poor. That's another way to describe it. Even by anybody's standards in the Western world, we were poor. But so that was a big necessity. And the fact that I had the ability, and I knew I had the ability, and I had the desire and the drive, and I knew I wasn't thick. And I knew there was a role for me out there. I wanted to show people. And I got fed up with getting cussed constantly at school by customers in the face. Every time I tried to do something, not encouraged to do it because I wasn't worth the investment. So, no, not you. No, not you, Theo.
Right.
At least, no, not you.
Wow.
And so that does hurt. And as a child, I don't want kids to have to be like that. And thank God we have so much knowledge now, and there's so much help out there now, that there's no reason now for any kid to have to go through that now. We have such an understanding of the difficulties and the talents and the superpowers that dyslexia people have, because you can't spell or read fast.
Yeah.
Big shakes. As it happens now, technology has dealt with most of that.
It has. Yeah, for me, I can say technology's been a game changer. Yeah, spell checking, ChatGPT, whatever it might be, it's making life a lot easier.
Yeah.
But even beyond dyslexia, you do have a really demanding life and career with all the businesses and investments that you currently have. How do you actually manage to balance all of those things?
Well, you don't balance, you blend it all.
Okay.
Because you can't balance, it's impossible.
Yeah.
So you blend all that together and you blend your home life in with it. And you have a home life, and you deal with things as and when you set up management teams, and they still require your participation, but I'm still pretty hands-on chairman in many of the businesses. But you blend it in with your time constraints, and you prioritize.
Yeah, on the note of your home life, if I'm correct, you've been married for about 46 years now.
Roughly, yeah.
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 So what role has your partner played in, I guess, shaping the success that you have today?
Wow. That's a question you got to ask her. I think she'd probably tell you that if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be where I am today. I think I might be struggling to disagree with her.
Why do you say that?
What, struggling to disagree with her?
Well, not that part, as in what is it that she's done that contributed to where you are
Well, the
today?
reason I'd be struggling to disagree with what she said is because it's been a partnership.
Yeah.
And, we've got 5 kids, 9 grandkids. I have an incredibly tough work ethic. I'm very tough on myself. Now, you can't have 5 kids and have a decent, normal home life and have that level of work commitment unless you've got a proper partnership where there isn't a dominant character, but where there is a demarcation of responsibilities, and where each partner's happy with those areas of responsibility. So I'm happy to take on my responsibility, and she was very clear and happy that what her responsibilities were, and that made us a formidable team, and that allowed us to get things done, whether it's family, whether it's work, business, success. So very much a team effort as far as that's concerned. She didn't embark on what she considered to be her responsibilities and allow me to do mine, and I the other way around. I don't think we'd have made such a great team, but both of us, luckily, wanted those areas of responsibility.
Yeah. That's beautiful, in all honesty. And somebody at my stage of life where I'm beginning to think about what the future might look like with a partner, etc. The idea of having someone that is a teammate, like you say, someone that's a partner where you understand and support each other, sounds like an amazing thing to accomplish.
Yeah, and I would say the one that's been lacking sometimes. I could have been more supportive on my side. But that's how it was, and it's worked. It's worked. Touch wood. It's worked well.
Yeah. If somebody wanted to be able to have a marriage that's lasted as long, have the family life, etc., are there any things that we should be thinking about to help prepare for that?
God, I can't give marriage guidance here. I'm the last person to give marriage calendars. I think Mrs. B was sitting here now. She'd put you straight on all my deficiencies, shortcomings, and everything else. So that's not really my bag to do that, but it has to be teamwork. It can only be teamwork.
Yeah. There will be certain challenges in life which money can't actually solve for us at the moment. I'm sure you've probably experienced a number of those. What do you do when you encounter those moments?
Well, it's challenges, and you're absolutely right. Some people think money solves all problems in life. It doesn't. It doesn't. Many people have challenges in their lives. They've got lots and lots and lots of money. So, when you have a challenge, irrespective of how much money you've got that can't be dealt with by money, then just like everybody else, you've got to put your nose to the grindstone and work it out and deal with it.
Yeah. So
there's no God-given right that because you've got you've been fortunate in life that issues or problems will be dealt with for you because you're fortunate.
Yeah, it is, as you say, a lot of people think that money's the silver bullet to all problems, but it really is not. So once again, having that mentality of being resilient and actually finding a way past it is what's going to get us to move forward. So one problem a lot of people like myself often struggle with is knowing when we should continue with something or when we should stop. As you mentioned a little earlier, having multiple businesses or ideas that you pursue in one time, sometimes it might not be worth saving a particular product or idea or project. How do you go about knowing what's worth saving?
It's a tough one, but there's an old saying that whether it's time or it's money, that says your first loss is your best loss. That's always important to remember. But it is all about what you're looking for in life. And that sometimes makes it easier for you to make that decision.
So first and foremost, we can figure out what's important to you.
Yeah.
And then from there.
But it all starts with you. It all starts with you and it finishes with you.
Right. And for yourself, what did you decide was the most important thing?
At different times in my life, I've had different priorities. And by the way, so will you.
Yeah.
And everybody else. Whatever your priorities are today, not necessarily going to be the priorities you're going to have in 10 years' time. I think that's just humanity, human nature. So, I try very hard to understand what my priorities are at a moment in time when I have to make a decision and assess that at that time. I might have made a different decision at a different time.
So do you take the time in advance to figure out your priorities, or is it when that decision's in front of you, that's when it's easier to be
Well, your priorities are dynamic.
Yeah.
So it'll be when you have to make that decision, but you got to look at clear times when you got to make decisions, the time when you don't have to make decisions. I mean, you can plan the hell out of everything, but you'd be the best planner in the world. There's 1,000 different reasons why your plans might not work out exactly as you want them to work out.
Yeah, I've had a number of situations like that myself where I think earlier on in my journey, I'd be a lot more like freestyle, just run into it. And as I got older, I started to plan a bit more. But as you're saying, you can't anticipate every problem that's going to come. We will begin to bring this towards the end of today's episode. Thank you, Theo, for everything that you have been doing and in terms of entrepreneurship. You've inspired so many entrepreneurs on their journey. Also, the work that you do in the BDA as well. It's really important. And I can say, with my journey with the organization so far, your presence has been a really big boost. And I think it's going to have a huge impact on a lot of people's lives.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You've made a lot of investments, some of them financial, but others were not really focused on the money side, like the time and effort you put into the BDA. What is it that actually you get as a return for those investments that you make?
Well, I'm very, very, very lucky. If I take you back to some of my early answers, the time and effort I put into what some people might call philanthropic ventures, for me, are so important in my life and in my success in business, because every time I go and have a small business conference, meet small business owners, as at my SBS Small Business Sunday Network, got 4,000 small business. When I meet those guys, I am so energized, right? What a payback. What a payback. When I meet youngsters early on in their journey in life, they got so much anticipation, enthusiasm, hope, ambitions. What a payback. I mean, those are wonderful paybacks. They might not be monetary, but they're wonderful paybacks to me as an individual and in a way I then conduct myself in my business.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start now asking you some questions.
Okay.
And I think that's fair, don't you?
I think that's fair.
Right. So you're a young entrepreneur. How old are you?
I am 34.
Right. So in relation to me, I'm just turning 65 this month. You're young, believe you me. But as I said to you before, between 34 and 65, it's a heartbeat.
Yeah.
It goes so quickly. So talk to me about your entrepreneurial journey and the things that you think that you might have done differently just in that short period of time.
Okay, so I did start when I was a teenager. That was largely because I didn't ever think I'd be able to fit into an office environment. Didn't have the confidence for that. So
Did you manage to get any exam results?
I did. I ended up doing pretty well in school by the end
Oh,
of it.
okay.
Started off very badly, but by the end, like you mentioned, we had great teachers that helped build up my confidence and my skill set.
Where was school for you?
That was West London, a school called Cardinal Wiseman, and I did go on to go to Loughborough University as well to do sports management there. Reason being, my first company was going to be a sports training camp and tournament. But then while I was there, I realized that I was beginning to develop a bit more of a passion for media. So opened a media studio, opened a production company, and then ran
Or
that
while
for
you were at
years.
Loughborough?
Or while I was at Loughborough.
Did you graduate?
I did graduate.
Wow. In what subjects?
That was in sports management. I graduated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something I know a little bit about. But
Yeah, there's a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was able to get an investment deal from my university for my business at the time, and then went on to grow that for a few years. But I decided that my heart really wasn't in it. I was really pursuing it just for money, and there was something that was more important to me, and that was actually helping people to reach their full potential. And that put me on the journey, I guess, where I am now, where having interviews with people like yourself and sharing the lessons that you've learned in life so other people can learn from them too.
So in your first business, you did it for money, and that's what got you out of bed in the morning.
Yes.
Right. So if that's money got you out of bed in the morning in your first business, age 20, 21, it
Yeah.
sounds like,
Mm-hmm.
what gets you out of bed in the morning at the age of 34?
Ooh, great question. I think it is knowing how far I want to go. So as much as my businesses have reached a level of success, there's a lot further I want to go with it. Ideally, one day I want to be able to take a company public, and I know that I have a very long way between where I am today versus where I want to be. So that sense of growth, learning, understanding, that's what drives me at the moment.
Entrepreneur. So the word entrepreneur clearly existed when I was at school, but I'd never heard it, right? You left school, you got a job, you had qualifications, I didn't have any, just like you. So I didn't know I was becoming an entrepreneur. Not something I planned to do. It was, didn't have a job, didn't have any exam results, just needed to do something. Very few people would employ you, so I had to find things to do. So just saying you're an entrepreneur is a word. Is there an area of entrepreneurship that you can describe that are your strengths and you think you can concentrate on and grow and get to your goal?
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty aware of where my strengths and my weaknesses are. So the strength for me is definitely innovation. So helping to come up with new ideas, seeing the connection between things which other people don't necessarily do. And I tend to be a little bit ahead
So
of the
dyslexia
curve.
coming in there.
It is 100% my dyslexia. And then the other side of that, which is probably also dyslexic related, is learning to build systems. Because I find that it's easy for me to build a company that is entirely dependent on myself, but that can only go so far. So the skill that I'm currently trying to focus on is building systems, processes, developing a team around me so that it's not dependent on me on a day-to-day basis in order for it to keep on growing.
In any particular sector?
Quite a wide range, actually. The business that I'm currently working on launching is a media production company again, actually a podcasting studio in King's Cross. So that's one. And then the sector that I'm considering afterwards is going to be in nutrition. So taking on my lessons that I learned in sports and applying that to everyday life.
A lot of people, nutrition we know is a multi-billion pound industry. What's your USP in nutrition? Because there's thousands and 100,000 millions of people out there telling you what's good for you, not good for you, and why you should follow them. And what's your USP?
I think the USP for the nutrition from my end is coming down to looking at some of the trends that are on this way. So nootropics, for example, so that's using different mushrooms that can help improve your cognitive performance. I think that's one of the next big step in nutrition, but it's also so far away from the consciousness of a lot of the public. And those that are aware of it, it sounds almost too scary to actually give it a
That
go.
lion's mane or something.
Lion's mane, changa,
That sort of
those
stuff.
type of products, yeah.
I've been hearing all about it. It's
Yeah,
the talk of the town.
it is definitely. But I still think for mainstream public, 85% of people, even if they have heard of it, they don't think it's for them. And one thing that I've traditionally been pretty good at is breaking down those barriers and helping people to feel, at least give it a try, and then go from there.
Is there any medical evidence that
There is evidence, but definitely more research needs to be done. So you can't say definitively that these are the impacts, but the research so far is suggesting that they are impactful.
So your USP's early adopter advantage?
Yes.
So you got to act quickly then.
That's the plan. So working on it, I think in terms of my journey in entrepreneurship, as I mentioned, the studio is the next step. And the reason being is I want to have something that has a lot more stable income, so that I've got the cash flow to be able to invest into future businesses. So that is, I need to get, I guess, the financial foundation strong. And then after that, it's really moving quickly on a nutrition company.
So when you become really old like me, what do you hope that your legacy would have been?
That's an amazing question. I think consistently the theme of all of my businesses are making it easier, democratizing, as some people would say, the things that help you to be at your best. I think for a lot of people, the access to that has only been available if you've gone to a private school, or if you've been able to get into certain circles, or if your parents happen to work at this company or that company. Whereas when I'm said and done with my career, if I achieve everything that I want to do, those walls have come down significantly, if not been destroyed altogether.
So there's quite a social activism there somewhere. Your being an entrepreneur is a really fine balance line, balancing line where you got to balance being successful, making money, because don't forget, unless you make money,
Yeah,
you know, you can't really then do all the things that you want to do.
exactly.
So it's making money is not an evil.
No.
It's an important part of a journey in achieving the things that you want to achieve. But how are you going to get to that stage where you make, I mean, that's a hell of a difference to be able to claim as your legacy for one person.
It is. And as I said, I got a very long way to go with that. I think it is that balance of what you've mentioned, of making as much income as possible to accomplish that. I personally feel like entrepreneurship is the most powerful tool in making a difference in the world. I don't ignore the need of charities or governments and things of that nature, but when, at least from my understanding of the world, what's pushed the needle the most is when a business is doing well, but also doing good in the world. And that's what I'm hoping I'll be able to accomplish.
Well, it's a hell of a challenge, and I, for one, wish you absolutely every hope and wellness to get there. And if you get even close to achieving that, making money and making that level of change, then I would have thought you're going to be very, very happy with your legacy.
Definitely will be.